Finishing games is overrated. I know it sounds like clickbait, but I mean it. And if you ever felt guilty about walking away from a project, this video is for you. We put so much pressure on ourselves to finish everything. Like if you don't release something on Steam, you're not a real dev. But what if finishing isn't the only measure of progress? What if the unfinished games are actually what teach you the most? This isn't an excuse to give up. It's a new way to look at your journey, so stop beating yourself up about doing what every dev actually does.
Let's talk about why so many projects stay unfinished, why that might not be such a bad thing after all. The problem, why most devs never finish.
We hear this advice all the time. Just finish your game. But here's the thing, most devs have a whole library of unfinished games. And first, that made me feel like a failure. Especially if it was a game I worked on for a long time. Because I was like, I'm just gonna abandon this now. I've started dozens of projects. I'd get that rush of a new idea, open Unity, start building a prototype, and then 2 weeks later, burn out. Sometimes it might even take a year for you to realize that this project is not for you. The excitement fades, bugs pile up, systems get messy, and it doesn't even feel fun anymore. And the weirdest part? The guilt sticks around. Even when I moved on to another project. Part of me kept thinking about the last one, like I owed it something. Like leaving it behind made me a quitter instead of a creator. And when that happened, I'd blame myself. I thought I was lazy, or undisciplined, or I just didn't have what it takes to become a real game developer. Because everywhere I looked, the message was the same. If you don't finish, you're not serious. Real devs don't quit. But that mindset ignores something huge. Finishing is hard, especially when you're working solo. No team, no deadlines, and no help to untangle your spaghetti code. And sometimes the project itself isn't even worth finishing. That's what no one talks about. Maybe the core loop doesn't work, maybe the idea was never that fun once it came to life. Maybe you've outgrown what you were trying to build. That's what happened with one of my projects. I realized the reason I started it wasn't the same reason I kept working on it. The original spark was gone, but I kept forcing it, and it only made me hate the work. Sometimes finishing the wrong project costs more than letting it go. And here's what gets real. Some projects are just meant to teach you something. You don't have to finish every single game to become a better dev. Sometimes the lesson is in walking away, in learning what doesn't work, in hitting your limits. We act like unfinished games are failures, but they're not. They're reps, they're experience, they're data points. If you started a game and you didn't finish, you didn't waste your time. You learned, you practiced, and you moved forward. And that matters more than you think.
To reframe, what you actually gain from unfinished games.
Here's the truth I wish I understood sooner. Just because the game isn't finished doesn't mean it failed. Because even if you never publish the final product, the process still shapes you. Every time you prototype an idea, you're practicing creativity. Every time you build a system, even a messy one, you're leveling up your technical skills. And every time something breaks, you're learning how to debug, troubleshoot, and stay calm under pressure. I've abandoned more projects than I've finished, easily. But I can still point to every single one and tell you what it taught me. There was this one RTS game I worked on. I wanted it to have multiplayer and full path finding with nav-mesh agents. And after weeks of wrestling with bugs and network syncing issues, I realized I was way in over my head. Eventually I walked away. But I walked away better, because that game taught me how multiplayer networking actually works. It not only taught me more about how the nav-mesh function with multiplayer networking, but also solidified knowledge I had gained from a multiplayer course I previously followed. And honestly, it taught me my limits, at least for that version of me. Another example, Automation Haven, that I worked on for almost a year. A full automation-heavy sim game. And I never finished it, but it taught me scriptable objects, clean code structure, how to break down big systems and keep things modular. That project forced me to think like a systems architect, not just a solo dev hacking stuff together. In a way, it laid the foundation for my future in game development. The lessons it taught me helped me with my next game, Echoes of Steel, the game I did finish. So even though it never shipped, it gave me the tools to finish something that did. That's why I don't look at unfinished games as failures anymore. They're explorations, they're practice reps, they're blueprints for future wins. You test your ideas, you test your systems, you test yourself. And yeah, sometimes you'll hit a wall, but in hitting that wall, you learn what you need to climb it next time. Most people only celebrate the finished game, but the growth happens in the messy middle. In the unfinished versions, the weird prototypes, the frustrating bugs. If a project helped you learn, then it did its job. Progress doesn't always look like a finished game on Steam. Sometimes it looks like a messy Unity folder of half-working systems that you never make the same mistake in again. In fact, some of the most cleanest code I've written only exists because of the chaos in my last project.
when you should finish a game.
Okay, so if not every game needs to be finished, when does it make sense to push through and actually ship something? Because here's the nuance, there is value in finishing, it just depends on why you're doing it. For me, finishing Echoes of Steel wasn't just about having a complete product. It was about learning what it takes to actually release something, from polish to marketing to bug fixing under pressure. You should finish a game if you want to test something beyond just mechanics, like if your art style holds up under polish, or how to structure a Steam page, or how long marketing takes when you're doing everything solo. Or maybe you want feedback, that's a great reason to finish. Even if the game is small, having players react to it, that's how you find your blind spots. And let's be real, sometimes you need to finish a game just to prove to yourself that you can. To build that muscle of follow through. To remind yourself that yes, you can take something from idea to release, and it doesn't have to be a massive game. It can be something small, a 5-minute demo, a jam game. The point is to go through the full cycle, from start to done. That feeling of actually shipping a game, it's powerful. Not because it makes you a real dev, but because it shows you what you're capable of. But here's where people get stuck. Don't just finish a project because you feel guilty for stopping. Finishing the wrong project, especially if the core loop is broken, will only burn you out faster. Polishing something that was never fun to begin with. That's how you lose motivation for months. Of course you could push through it with discipline, but is it really worth doing it? Don't make abrupt decisions. Take your time to make a decision, to continue or not. So the better question to ask is, does this game deserve to be finished? Be honest with yourself. Is this idea still exciting to you? Is it teaching you something new? Or are you just finishing it out of guilt? Not every project deserves to be finished, but the right ones, they'll push you to grow in ways unfinished games never could. Finish the ones that challenge you in new ways. Finish the ones that feel worth sharing. Finish the ones that help you become who you want to be. Finishing isn't a badge of honor, it's a tool, and you get to decide when you use it.
Personal contrast, finished versus unfinished.
I've had games that I finished and published, and games that I spent way more time on but never released. And the truth is, both shaped me just as much. Take Echoes of Steel, a game I finished. It wasn't perfect, but it taught me how to polish a game to the point where it feels complete. How to write a Steam description, upload builds, make trailers, gather feedback, even handle the stress of deadlines. It taught me what it actually takes to ship something into the world, and all the chaos that comes with that. But now compare that to Automation Heaven. I spent almost a year building that game. A complex, automation-heavy sim. It was huge, and I never finished it. But here's the thing, Automation Haven taught me things I didn't learn from finishing a game. It taught me how to write clean, modular code, how to structure large systems using scriptable objects, how to design tools that scale. It taught me to think like an architect, not just slapping scripts onto game objects. It also showed my limits. There were times I pushed too hard, trying to make everything perfect, trying to implement everything. And eventually, I realized the game didn't have a clear direction anymore. So I made a call to let it go. And honestly, that decision alone was a milestone. It taught me how to walk away with intention, not from failure, but from misalignment. That's not something you learn from finishing. That's something you learn from listening to yourself. But letting it go didn't feel like a failure, because I carried all of that knowledge into Echoes of Steel. Things that would have taken me 3 days to figure out during Automation Haven, I did in 30 minutes next time around. In a way, Automation Haven helped finish Echoes of Steel, even if no one will ever play it. And that's why I think finishing isn't the only measure of success. Some unfinished projects taught me more than the ones I released. They just gave me the skills, the scars and the systems I needed to grow. They just didn't need to be seen to be valuable.
Identity. You're still a real dev.
Let's get this out of the way. You're a game developer. Even if you never published anything, even if you just have a folder full of prototypes. I know what it's like to question that, to wonder if you really count when not releasing things yet. Especially when you see devlogs, trailers, Steam pages and you think, I'm nowhere near that. But here's what matters more than anything else. You're showing up, you're building, you're learning. That's what makes you a dev. That's growth. And it's not cope, it's real, measurable skill building. The way you solve problems now is better than it was last year. You debug faster, you write cleaner code, you think more like a designer. I've been there, wondering if I was just pretending. Especially when projects didn't get finished or I paused one to start chasing something new. But looking back, I can see how much those in-between stages actually built me up. Your skill level is rising, with or without a finished game on Steam. Just because people can't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Exploring doesn't make you lazy, it means you're still finding your voice, your genre, your systems. Some people finish one game in 5 years, others build 20 ideas and ship one great one later. There's no right timeline, there's just progress. Keep walking, keep building, you're already doing the thing. You're not behind, you're on your way, and you already belong here. Unfinished games aren't failures, they're stepping stones. They're how you find your limits, your style, your strengths. They're how you become a game developer. Start more things. Finish the ones that matter, let go of the ones that don't. But don't stop building, because that's where the magic happens. You don't need permission, you don't need a Steam page. You become a dev the moment you start building. You're just on the same path the rest of us are walking. Ship small, learn fast, move on if needed. And if you're still building, keep going. You're doing better than you think. Watch this video if you want to learn about the hidden benefits of game dev.